California's Democratic Governor Jerry Brown. Governor Brown, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Glad to be here.
So yesterday you suggested President Trump's approach to North Korea was, quote, stupid and dangerous and silly. I know you don't care for the term rocket man about Kim Jong-un, but to play devil's advocate,
sure.
Is it not possible that this tactic might work because everything else has failed with North Korea, from Clinton to Bush to Obama, who tried it the diplomatic way?
Yeah, if you believe in bluster and starting a bluster war with North Korea, which is what they do. And they're pretty darn good at invective and threats, one after the other. So I think bluster is not the pathway of diplomacy or even statesmanship. Sure, these are real serious issues, no doubt about it. We've got to work closely with China and Russia and South Korea and Japan. But just noise and threats, we're going to kill every man, woman, and child in North Korea, that doesn't advance the ball. It just raises the temperature and the exchange of non-rational bluster back and forth. I don't think that's positive.
Speaking of raising the temperature, you're at the UN General Assembly with other Democratic governors to participate in Climate Week. President Trump, we're told, aired his dissatisfaction with the Paris Climate Agreement during a meeting with the French president, saying that other countries, namely China, received a better deal than the United States. Is it not true that China set lower standards for itself than did the U.S.?
Look, China is doing more than the U.S. right now. They're closing down coal plants. They're massively investing in solar and wind. They're mastering battery technology, which will help America. So this point that America got a bad deal is fake. It's more fake than any fake news assertion by President Trump. This agreement is so fundamental. I mean, you watch all these hurricanes and the devastation, you can't take your mind off extreme weather events. That's exactly what climate change is going to bring about. It may already bringing them about. So to omit that, an existential threat, climate change, that's what it is. It's irresponsible. It's blind. It's almost, I don't even know how he gets away with that. I have to call that fake news, or whatever you call a president's speech of that order.
In reference to climate change, this week you compared Trump supporters to cave dwellers. You said, quote, you should check out the derivation of Trumpite and troglodyte because they both refer to people who dwell in deep, dark caves. Are you really calling the nearly 63 million Trump voters cave dwellers?
No, and if you saw your own words there, it was about Trumpite and troglodyte. It wasn't about the millions of voters who voted for President Trump, many of which are right in California. No, the people who closely advise climate denial, advise bluster wars, advise stigmatizing and delegitimizing our entire news industry as fake, yeah, that is really, I won't call them cave dwellers, because cave dwellers didn't have TV like that. But it is a blindness. It's a darkness that evades the truth. It really generates the kind of disinformation that undermines democracy and doesn't build dialogue, which we desperately need in this country and between nations around the world.
I want to ask you about some legislation that you have on your desk. Over the weekend, California passed a bill making the Golden State a sanctuary state.
No, wait a minute. There's no word sanctuary. This is a bill to have the Immigration Service do their own work and not attempt to conscript state officials into being part of the Immigration Service. It does allow close cooperation on data, on drug busts and drug raids, and also working with the Immigration Service, whether it's from our prisons or from the jails when you're dealing with serious criminals. So it protects public safety, but it also protects hardworking people who've contributed a lot to California.
Hardworking people who are undocumented immigrants.
Yeah. By the way, they've got a couple million working. Our agricultural industry, our hospitality industry, our construction industry, they'd be in deep trouble without those same people. And that's why we need immigration reform, not bluster, not rhetoric, and not this kind of xenophobia that we see too much of coming out of Washington.
Do you think that complying with federal immigration laws it's optional? Because that would be the counter-argument.
No, and we comply with immigration laws. We're not soldiers of Donald Trump or the Federal Immigration Service. We have our own laws to arrest criminals, to give them a jury trial, and then to provide appropriate punishment. That's our job. Now, the immigration people can come over to our jails. They can interview people. They can pick up people that they think are appropriate. But don't tell California to do your work. In fact, there are many cases of people who the Immigration Service said they wanted, and they don't even show up to come to get them. So this is a well-balanced bill. The police chief of Los Angeles supported it. There's a number of law enforcement officials who said it was a much better piece of legislation than what was originally introduced and which got the name Sanctuary City or Sanctuary State.
Another piece of legislation passed in the California State Legislature Friday would require presidential candidates to release their 5 most recent years of tax returns in order to be able to get on the California ballot. President Trump has, of course, infamously refused to release his returns. He says he's under audit. You also have not released your tax returns. Do you plan to sign?
Well, actually, I did release them in my earlier campaigns. This time around, my opponents wouldn't do it, so I didn't either. I'm not going to tell you what I'll do in the bill. I want to read it. I want to look at the legality in the face of federal law. So we'll take a look at it. I generally don't opine on the 600 bills that the legislature leaves on my desk. I take a look at each one. I'll give this a fair read, and you'll hear my decision very soon.
All right, California Governor Jerry Brown, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.